What is the best MMO ever created? A question which for many years now has been debated by balding middle-aged men across the world. And in today's video, I'm going to finally tell you which MMO is the best. And you're probably wondering, who am I to settle this debate? What knowledge do I have which makes me the expert on this subject matter? Which is exactly why I have scoured the depths of the YouTube algorithm to find some of the most relevant and knowledgeable content creators who will finally put this dispute to rest. Unfortunately, Josh Drive Hayes was busy, and Mitch Mannix
collab with Sawman. I'd rather saw off my balls.
So who are these brave souls who are willing to take on such a feat? Well, we have Idol. He likes to yap about MMO RPGs and talks about RuneScape a lot. Nice Gaming, an expert on a game that quite literally doesn't exist. Redbeard Flynn, just don't ask him about EverQuest because he won't shut up. If there was a vote for MMO content creator most likely to go to prison, it would indeed be Rose. Another professional RuneScape yapper, Waydot. He has a cat. Kira TV, his trigger words are Kickstarter and early access. And lastly, professional bald shouty man, Blue Squadron. He spoke to Asmund Gold once. Now that everyone has been introduced to each other, let's see if we can use these experts to figure out which MMO is the best. Let's begin.
New World. Where would I put New World on the tier list?
New World's a weird one. Are we talking about New World how it is as a Turnum, or New World how it was when it was an MMORPG?
Okay.
Oh, that is quite the controversial one.
Oh, fuck. I don't see an X tier in your tier list.
Are we talking about the ARPG or the MMORPG?
Oh, right. Well, actually, that doesn't even qualify as an MMO anymore.
So when I first played New World, I loved it. I thought it was one of the first new MMOs that I actually tried on my channel, and it was one of my favorite games. I didn't actually play New World when it first came out. I played it probably 6 months later. But I recently came back to New World with the Eternum update, and not a fan.
I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this. I like the combat. I know people see it and they say 6 active skills and, oh, I hate the combat. I think New World has some of the most fun action combat that you can get in an MMO.
I don't know if I can think of a game that has worse combat than New World. And that's the biggest gripe that I have with the game, and that's why I never got crazy into it.
New World is probably my favorite combat I've had in an MMO because it's literally meant to be an action RPG, as they've said now, which they definitely didn't just change their mind on.
I feel like there's actual skill involved, like when I'm doing a duel or, when it comes to combat, which says something that you don't get in a lot of MMOs or whatever. I think it's really underrated in that sense. Now, is the game overall good? That's not what I'm saying. Am I saying the devs are good, or have they been handling it well? Hell to the no.
Was a game that did a lot of things really well and a lot of things terribly. Specifically, the technology was bad, but the sense of scale and everything in the world, they really, if they leaned into it, could have done so much, and it was a game that had really huge potential.
A simple basic fact about this is if you are in a state where you've launched your MMO, you failed to launch it correctly, you reused assets like a motherfucker, you had every single mob just being a copy paste of a skeleton everywhere else, you screwed up so badly that you had to relaunch onto console to try and fix your problems and pretend like everything's going to be fine. That's never a good place to be.
They don't even want to be called an MMO anymore. I mean, they asked to sponsor me on their thing, and I was like, they called it a co-op RPG, and I was like, well, when I advertise it, do you want me to call it a co-op RPG, or do you want me to call it an MMO? Because it's traditionally an MMO, and they were like, no, we want you to say co-op RPG. I was like, okay.
and I just didn't feel like there was much to do. They didn't really add any new areas or much to the game, despite the fact that it's now cross-platform. What else is there? And one of the biggest complaints about New World is that the end game was lacking in content.
It's not as bad as people think it is, but it's not really good either. It found an identity 3 years after launch, so it's one of those, I think it's an MMO that kicked itself in the foot. It could have been better than it is, but it also lacks a lot of inspiration. It feels very bland in a lot of ways.
My issue with New World comes with it wants to be so much. Like it's so clear from the moment it came out how it wanted to do everything. Like it wanted to be the MMO that had everything.
Everything about the game was an afterthought, to be honest. It was half baked with just like a few really well done things. The world, the graphics, the audio, the interface, the pop-ups and everything, the trading, the fact that you could play with other players and feel like an MMO. It did so many things right and then just had no content to back any of it up.
I assume it wanted an end game, although it never really figured that part out. It wanted progression to be like endless, with almost too many progression mechanics, from like your region reputation to your gathering skills, your combat skills, your guild reputation, or what is it called, companies in New World. I feel like with that game they had a classic issue, which I think a lot of new MMOs have, which is trying to master everything, and you end up spreading yourself so thin that it makes the gameplay thin.
I came back recently, very recently. I logged in for about 2 hours. I felt so confused, and I felt like I didn't know what the point of me playing the game was, so I actually logged off in like 2 hours. I was going to make a whole video on it, the Eternum update, but I just felt like there wasn't enough there, so.
It doesn't have a subscription fee. It doesn't have like any crazily overly pay to win stuff in their shop. I don't like the battle pass, but I wouldn't call it fair, but I wouldn't call it like atrocious either.
But if I was going to choose an MMO to play for a while in a very casual way, and I didn't really care that much, and I was a guy with 5 kids and 2 wives, then yeah, New World will keep you busy for a few hours a day without like feeling like some ultra sweaty monster is going to destroy you every second of every day. Although the new auto lock feature does fix that for casual players.
I'd probably put this as a C tier. It should have been like an A tier, but it just had no content.
So overall, you're going to say it's F tier?
Yeah, it's F.
Would C just be like it's fine?
Some might say that way, yeah.
Okay, I'll put it in C because it's fine.
Red big quote tonight. It's fine.
It's fine.
They kind of abandoned their whole PC player base this last year. I'm gonna have to give them. Should I give it an F? Nah, that'll be mean. Let's give it a D.
I'm sticking with my answer. I'm gonna go a C.
It's a C. It's a good enough time. It just gets old real fast, and there's nothing more that it offers. But you can have a good time with it. You could probably have $40 of a good time with it. So I put it at C.
New World, probably D tier. Needs more endgame, needs more content, needs a higher server population size. It's got all the fundamentals it requires to be a good action combat MMO, but with none of the execution behind it.
Okay.
And they keep on doing weird and stupid things like reworking the content that's fine instead of just making new content, especially for the endgame.
So in order to work out the total score for each MMO, I've added a number value to each tier, and from that, I'm going to work out the average. So the highest rank being a C and the lowest rank being an F, it should come as no surprise that overall, New World is seen as a D tier MMO. Surely it can't get any worse from here. Let's move on to the next MMO.
Retail or classic?
Are we differentiating between classic and retail?
Wait, classic or do we mean retail?
I think you have to split World of Warcraft into 2 tiers, one for classic and one for retail.
Why does everyone keep asking that?
It's a big question. That's important.
I'm just gonna say both. Everyone keeps asking me this, but I see what WoW was like.
Can't be both. can't be both. They're so different. They're different games. I refuse to judge both like that. That's nonsense. I refuse. You're gonna need to tell me one. Just pick one right now. Retail. Fine, we'll do retail. Telling me to judge them both as one is crazy, man.
Because Classic is undoubtedly better in every way, shape. Okay, no. Because I would have a different ranking for both of them.
And both are S tier. And I think anyone who doesn't think World of Warcraft is an S tier MMO is just, they're just lying to themselves, or they're just hating, because World of Warcraft it transcended MMOs, full stop. It transcended the genre.
The MMO that changed MMOs for better or worse, depending on who you ask, and probably worse for most people.
So I think I'm gonna have a much different take on World of Warcraft from anyone else in this video. I am a very unique individual in that I'm just now in my life starting World of Warcraft within the last 2 months. New player, jaded, I know.
And I'm going to be playing a lot more of this in this coming month because I'm doing OnlyFans. I've only actually played to level 20 to get the Liadrin skin, and I basically just ran and killed the same mob over and over again, and then a giraffe farmed me in a field for like 20 minutes and I gave up.
It has hands down the best group dungeon content, probably out of any MMO currently, with Mythic Plus and its rating.
Good ideas, outdated execution. It's still got a massive player base. It's still got people who love playing it.
Oh, you're gonna get some hate if you include this part. I started World of Warcraft Classic. I uninstalled after about 8 hours. Got a refund, so there's that. I tried retail and the combat was a lot better. And before I go forward, before there's a hate campaign for me, I'm not saying retail is better than Classic.
Classic, like the original game and what it was at the beginning and the first few expansions, there was nothing like it. There'll, again, probably never be anything like it. Even going back and playing it now, it's not just nostalgia, it's just a fantastically designed game. The world's great, the lore's great. It's one of the only MMOs I'll care about the lore.
And what World of Warcraft, I think, has always had going for it is its world of Warcraft. It's a really immersive world, and I think they're leaning into that really well. And I think a lot of other MMOs can kind of fall flat in their world and in their storytelling, and I know World of Warcraft has a little bit.
But I mean, it's the biggest MMO for a reason. I played a lot of it, like probably way too much of it.
Are you a Classic Andy or retail Andy?
Neither. I played, so when I played was around Wrath of the Lich King, but I don't necessarily want to go back to that.
Retail, the only thing that matters is the last expansion. Classic, the only thing that matters is how many mods you can put on the game to make it more interesting, like them stealing hardcore or season of discovery and stuff like that.
I actually think that WoW and Blizzard do an exceptional job at lore, and like their trailers and stuff are really good. And I think that their storyline, at least the starting storyline, that like the cinematics and everything that I've seen, is exceptionally good.
The new expansions that are coming out have a sort of, what would you say? They're sort of a callback to the past. They're rectifying a lot of the mistakes that they've made in the past. I think Shadowlands was really the last time where the entire player base was like, we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like this. And it sounds like ever since then they've started to at least listen a little bit more. That's in terms of retail.
I had a decently fun leveling experience. I think World of Warcraft has the best questing. I haven't even seen a fraction of it. I mean, come on, I'm 2 decades late to this MMO, right? So there's a lot of quests I haven't even seen, but I used the timeline system and all that, and the story, it was just immersive, dude.
For retail, the game's had a bunch of problems. The game still has problems now. I still play it. As soon as we finish this, I'll be going back on World of Warcraft to play the world within. It's way different. It's designed for you to basically log on, do something real quick, log out, and really easy to play with friends. The combat is the smoothest combat in any MMO, full stop. Like, it's tab target done perfectly.
Monetization, everything went to shit after they added the WoW token, and they like to pretend it fixed bots and all these other problems. It didn't. A lot of the community, because they don't look into this, they don't spend hours of their life like I do, looking at bots, numbers, data behind it and all of that stuff. They think that the game's fine, but it's not when it comes to that. So monetization-wise, I'd say it's worse than New World. And I'd say they get away with it because people are just locked either in nostalgia or pretending that it doesn't exist.
We no longer have a true MMO that's not in some way pay to win, I think. The WoW token is pay to win, but it's one of those things you just got to kind of deal with it, I guess.
You can argue WoW is pay to win, and you can make the argument very easily. You can make the argument for pretty much any MMO. I think the only one that doesn't is maybe Final Fantasy 14 and Iron Man Old School RuneScape. Aside from that, most MMOs are pay to win. So
They ask you to pay money at every step of the way. So you pay for the expansions, you pay for a subscription fee, you can buy in-game gold with the WoW token. Obviously, you can use that for other services as well.
I think being able to essentially pay for gold is gross. Coming from, I won't say too much about RuneScape, but RuneScape has bonds, which is the same thing. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I especially resent the fact that when Wrath of the Lich King Classic came out, they put it into Wrath of the Lich King Classic, when one of the big things about Classic, not only era, but as they re-release expansions, was the fact that it was from a time before microtransactions.
with the WoW token, I just don't give a fuck. It just makes no difference to how I experience the game whatsoever. The people will say, oh, you can buy the best gear, but the best gear is useless unless you're doing the best content, which is where you'd get the best gear. So it's kind of like, it doesn't do anything for you.
Blizzard is just the new EA.
It's no secret that Blizzard's a toxic environment, and I don't think that's changed since they got acquired by Microsoft. Blizzard's best interest will never be making the best game anymore. That will never be what is in their best interest. Their best interest is making the game that is the most monetizable. That should be making the best game. You would think it's making the best game, but there's better ways to make money. There's been evidence of that.
And I can see that trying to fix their issues, they're trying to fix their problems. But someone who's worked as a project manager, who's seen the inside of businesses like this, whatever you're hearing reported on the surface is maybe 10% of what's actually going on in the company.
And a bit of a curveball. Any thoughts on the Cosby suite?
I'm sorry now?
The Bill Cosby suite?
I'm gonna need context. So why is there a Bill Cosby suite?
Oh, so it's the prolific thing which went on at Blizzard, along with like drinking women's breast milk and stuff like that. At one of the conventions, they'd always hire out a room, and they had a picture of Bill Cosby in there with them. There's known as the Cosby suite. Judged by your reaction, you know nothing of it.
So like personally, I feel like World of Warcraft isn't that good of a game.
The game's just, it's an S tier, like 100%. Like, no, you can't really put that game anywhere else. And I played this game forever. Like, I played it since the original game came out, a couple days into release. I come back for every expansion, come back for most patches in each expansion. And aside from a couple really bad spots like Shadowlands, the game's just strength to strength for what it's trying to do now.
You know, after shitting on it that much, I'd probably say it's B tier.
I'm not going to be like super controversial just for controversy's sake. I'm just going to put it in A tier. I don't think it is an S tier MMO, just because even though it's a formula that's been copied over and over again, they haven't stuck to their own formula. They have over 20 years been unable to stick to what they were doing, to the point where you have now split your player base to such a degree that you have created an entirely different game. And you also have a ton of ups and downs, so it's an A tier MMO.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta put it S tier.
Wow.
I gotta put it S tier.
What a shock.
Wait, take two. I gotta put it A tier.
A
Only because of the
tier.
breast milk. Yeah, only because of the breast milk thing that I
Right.
just learned
No,
about.
that's-
It can't be
that's-
S tier now.
So we're saying WoW is A tier, yeah?
Yeah, A tier overall. If I could rank them differently, I'd probably put retail in B tier and a classic in S tier. But if I mix the two, we'll go A tier.
I think the recent expansion and classic together make for such a genuinely good experience that I would put World of Warcraft as a whole at A. I would put classic at S. I would put retail at B. But I'll average them out to an A.
And then the combat is also just like total ass, because you're comparing it to action combat systems. I'm gonna give World of Warcraft, and this people are gonna flame me on that. I'm putting it in the B tier.
So as controversial as it is ranking World of Warcraft as one whole game instead of two separate games, I know, go figure, we have a average ranking of A. Let's move on to round 3.
Okay, I'm gonna shit all over this game.
So I know you love Elder Scrolls Online. It's unironically one of my favorite MMOs of all time.
Dude, it's tough. This is probably the MMO that's like, in terms of its size, that I know the least about.
One of my, if not my favorite MMOs of all time. Really good game. Really good game.
All right, that's it. That's what we need to know. Move on. Next game.
Oh man, Cash Shop Online. What a game. What a game. 95% of that game I haven't played because I haven't opened the Cash Shop.
Oh no. Oh geez, Elder Scrolls Online. So I made a video that said 10 years is too much trying for Elder Scrolls or something like that. I forgot the name. That everyone got mad at me for, so that's cool.
The Elder Scrolls Online doesn't really appeal to me because I think just the way I view the world of the Elder Scrolls isn't through an MMO lens, and I don't know why that is for me. Every time I think about exploring that world as an MMO, it does not strike me as something I want to do.
I think the Elder Scrolls Online is a good game. I think especially if you are just looking to PvE, if you're looking for a game, I always say I envy anyone that's starting the Elder Scrolls Online today, because there is an infinite amount of overland content, so many zones, so many things to do, so many dungeons, trials, quests. Like,
so ESO's redeeming quality is that the storyline is really good, and then the combat, people pretend that the combat is good because it's like action combat, but it's actually just ass. So yeah, and then the graphics look kind of dated in ESO. So,
a lot of people complain about the combat system in ESO, and I don't think it's that bad. Like, I feel like it's just the popular reason to dislike ESO. Everyone says, oh, the combat's so boring, the combat sucks. I kind of enjoy the combat. It's a little click intensive, like you're switching between your weapons a lot, but I find the open world to be really immersive. I like the questing, I like the stories, I like the collection. I like the horizontal progression that the game has. I wish they had a bit more in terms of like end game content.
I don't have a lot of experience with the game, and the reason I don't have a lot of experience with the game is because the initial introduction to Elder Scrolls Online is exactly what's wrong with almost every modern MMO, and that is there's no inherent difficulty or challenge in the introduction to the game.
Like, probably the biggest issue for me is the one Tamriel update, which was like a year, 2 years after launch. It wasn't very long after, which basically made the world into like, there's no adventure anymore. Everything is the same. Depends, like, yeah, there's a lot of freedom, but there's no progression. There's no point in going from one zone to the next.
But again, it kind of falls into that they stopped caring about developing the game and they started caring about making as much money as possible. So most of their resources are into how do we milk those little gamer nipples off of, everyone playing the game.
And for me, the combat in Elder Scrolls Online is terrible. I just can't get over like how floaty the game feels. I can't get over how I basically am expected to either go out of my way to find something that's not apparent by finding it on Google, or to just kind of like sit and do mind-numbing, boring content when I don't particularly care about story, to then get to like the late game. It's just not my cup of tea. It's also one of those games that's monetized to fuck. So it's kind of like in your face. As soon as you start, you're like, oh, my inventory space, and I need this bag, and I need this thing, and there's like a million things in the cash shop, and there's loot boxes, and
you feel absolutely compelled to buy ESO Plus due to the crafting bag. That bothers me.
It feels like an optional subscription, but it's not an optional subscription. It is a subscription that you really need. They have fine-tuned the FOMO of a subscription in an optional subscription model. You'll get a lot of stuff for free, but it's in a sense pushing you into paying that subscription. I would it'd almost be better if it was just not optional, just make it mandatory in my sense, and then tone down the store, because the store is a bit much.
I'm not saying the overland content is good, because I mean, one of my complaints is that it just frankly is not. Doesn't seem challenging at all. A lot of the NPCs just like seem to like light attack every couple of seconds. You don't really feel threatened ever, so it's not really enjoyable. Now, the Elder Scrolls Online has some hard content, but that's not the overland content. You got to go to a hard mode trial. You got to do a dungeon, whatever the case may be, right? But the overland content is just not engaging at all. I never feel a sense of progression or a challenge on my character.
Balancing could be a little bit better, but I did have fun in Cyrodiil. I love that like open world, kind of world versus world interaction in terms of PvP. So,
like, if you're looking for a solo player MMO, Elder Scrolls Online, I'll recommend to you all day.
I liked PvP before max level. Once you got to max level, PvP was atrocious and I hated it, because it was just like you got one shot, and then you looked at like the combat log and it's like, oh, like they killed me 7 times with one attack.
They would introduce an entire zone full of delves, dungeons, trials, story, and I'm talking huge, massive pieces of land, right? Like a lot of content, a whole world's worth of content, right? And they couldn't give you a battleground map for years. They wouldn't update Cyrodiil for years. Like, it's actually crazy. Even PvE players that would never touch PvP, they were looking on the outside, you know, like, damn, why do you still play this? Like, they hate you guys. I'm fine. I'm gonna stay here, but you guys, the hell y'all still doing playing this game?
Man, where did I put New World at? C? It's got to be above New World, because I feel like I hear it talked about much better than New World.
So B tier.
It's a polished game, so you can't put it in like an F tier. But I'd say it's like a C tier game for me. It's not. I don't have a high opinion of that game at all.
But is it a B? I don't know. I don't know enough about the game.
A B tier MMO, largely because of its visuals, its story, its acting, and it would be an A tier if not for one Tamriel monetization, the need and focus on builds and like set bonuses and stuff like that.
I don't know enough about the game to say that it's a B.
I'll give the Elder Scrolls Online because I do enjoy the combat, and I do think it has really good PvE for the, you know, if you're into that, and a lot of content. Let's give her a B. As much as I complain about it, let's give it a B. I really like that game. It's my favorite MMO. I just don't think the way they treat the PvP player base should put them in a tier above that.
I'm putting it in the C tier. I'm putting it in the C tier. I'm at C for crap. Okay.
I'll put it in upper C. Put it above New World, and that's before anyone gets mad. That's just my lack of information.
I think I'll go B tier for ESO. I'm a little bit biased. I really enjoy playing the game. There's like all kinds of negative things I can point out about it, but at the end of the day, I have a lot of fun playing it. So B tier.
All in all, a very vanilla rating for the Elder Scrolls Online, which actually gives it an average of C tier, which, in my personal opinion, might be a little bit too high.
Fuck. Okay, that's the MMO that I'm terrified of.
It's gonna be controversial, man. It's gonna be controversial. I don't like it. I don't like that game.
Okay, I'm gonna get myself cancelled like Lazy Peon on this one.
Why are people scared of this one?
I don't like having sex with people in game on the internet, so I don't like this game as much as some of the other people that like MMOs.
So I might have a bit of an interesting take on this one, because people always ask me, wait, why haven't you reviewed Final Fantasy XIV?
I know better than to disrespect it. I think we need another tier for Final Fantasy XIV. I'd say S+, actually. S+, really good game. Really good game.
I'm scared of going near that MMO because it's like an infinite amount of story, and I don't know if it's good or not.
It's got like the best story, right? Like the MMO that failed went back into development for 3 years and then like relaunched. Like that's kind of just like, that's just gonna always be an amazing story.
Final Fantasy 14, I've played a good amount of. It's just fun enough. The story doesn't hit for me, and that's the biggest part of the game. Like, whenever people talk about what they love about Final Fantasy 14, it almost always comes down to story.
I mean, it's a great game. It's just not an MMORPG for 99.9% of the game. And you can argue most MMOs are not nowadays. But Final Fantasy 14 is first and foremost a JRPG. And then it's an MMO much, much later and much, much secondary.
That game is an RP player's wet dream. Like, and in some cases, that's actual literally.
And it's crazy because Final Fantasy as a series is one of my favorite video games of all time. Final Fantasy X is easily in my top 5. But Final Fantasy 14 as an MMO is just a very big undertaking if you want to do a good review of the game.
People keep telling me to play through it. What keeps holding me back is you just have to get past the first 60 hours of the main story, Blue, and then you can do it, right? And then it's gonna get good. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to play for 60 hours and then the game gets good.
The combat is fine. The combat is like, it's very standard MMO tab target combat, which feels good. That's the most I can say about the combat. Like, it feels smooth.
And I'm gonna be just completely honest here. I do not play MMOs for the story ever.
The quests are fucking boring, man. The quests are boring. It's probably one of the worst questing systems I've seen in an MMO, and that's saying something because I played a lot of World of Warcraft Classic where the quests can be really boring.
I haven't played enough of it kind of takes so far, say it's A tier, but I might be having my opinion altered and manipulated by the fact that there's bunny girls in that game. That shit's hot.
I think when I think of like the chosen one syndrome of MMOs, Final Fantasy 14 is top of mind for me. The you're the chosen one is, and everyone else is as well. But that is what the game is. It almost feels like an RPG first and an MMO second.
When I'm playing a video game, I want loot, I want to do big damage, and I want to top a DPS meter and mostly loot. That's why I play video games. And so I feel like Final Fantasy 14 has this huge focus on the story, and I don't know if I'm gonna love that.
Oh, and you know what is actually really nice, and this should not go unnoticed about some of these MMOs, is just how active it is. Like, it's hard to go anywhere in Final Fantasy 14 and not see other people, and like there is a lot of built-in interaction you can have in that game.
As far as immersive roleplay, it's really good, and I think they have some difficult PvE content, is what I know about that game.
If I want to be told a story, I'll play a story game, one that respects my time and doesn't want me to pay a subscription. And that's not to say Final Fantasy 14 is made in a way to try and pad things out to keep your subscription. But to me, it feels like it is, because I can go and read a book and the book tells me a story without any fucking around.
Final Fantasy 14 is a game you could play a lot on your own, though. Like, there are certain parts that you need a group for, so it's like, it's not really like the game that needs the most interaction, but it is nice that you go around to cities and stuff, and there's tons of people, and there's like, I've talked to a lot of people in the game just because I'm kind of a psychopath in MMOs where I talk in public chat all the time. But it's just a game that I've really struggled with.
I actually really enjoy. I like tab target combat, so the combat was fun for me. It was kind of what I'm used to. The PvP was awful. Like, the PvP was really bad. So that part of it sucked. Like, that was how it compares favorably to WoW. And then I played the PvP and I was like, oh, this is terrible.
Just text on a screen. It's a lot of characters poorly animated, like turning around and walking, and you just sat looking at it, and it's like 10 seconds between one character saying something and another character saying something, then the other one turns around, and then you have to go do a very small task, and then you come back and it's the same thing.
I'm fairly certain that there's like this dance club, and they had a rival dance club, and they actually bought a billboard somewhere in the US, and they advertised their Final Fantasy 14 club on the highway. So
I love RPing though. I love RPers in MMOs because it's like watching a story event happen. It's so great, but I have not personally firsthand seen it in Final Fantasy 14. I'm a big fan of it though. I love it.
You haven't been to like a Final Fantasy 14 nightclub at any point?
No, is that similar to, if any World of Warcraft people are out there, a Goldshire Inn party?
I agree.
I'll feel free to cut this part out, but a gold try or in party in World of Warcraft Classic is when a bunch of RPers get together and basically have fake sex in an inn in one of the starting towns.
Yeah.
Again, it's not really an MMO to me until much later in the game. I know some people play it like a role-playing thing and whatever. It's probably one of the fairest monetized. It's probably one of the games that has the best free trials. But yeah, it ain't my game. I'd say it's still like an A to S tier MMO because there's so few actual good MMOs. I'd probably go A tier, to be honest.
Oh, S plus 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 plus.
Wow, you read that.
Plus plus. I saw Peon's messages. They are S plus plus.
Fairies can't hurt you though.
Oh, why don't you say that? Well, in that case,
Where did I put WoW? I put WoW in A tier. It's got to be next to WoW in A tier.
I'd say it's A tier from what I've experienced, but I think that my opinion on Final Fantasy is probably an invalid one because I haven't experienced enough of the game to give like a formulated opinion. It's like I play the game for like maybe 30 hours. That's it.
I'm gonna put them at A tier simply because I don't feel like I can put something at S tier that I haven't played personally.
Seeing as I haven't played the game, this is really tough to do. But because I know that the game is so focused on story, I'm gonna go D tier. I haven't played it. I don't know about its systems. I don't know about its anything. All I know is that it's really focused on story, and I don't love that. So, D tier.
People are going to be really confused why New World's above this. I'm putting it in D. I actually had more fun with New World than I did with Final Fantasy 14, even though I played Final Fantasy 14 more. But that's only because I was told, like, I was in denial playing Final Fantasy 14. I was like, what am I missing? Like, this has to be great, right? Like, I'm missing something.
It is a solid game. I've heard the end-game raid system is pretty solid. The storyline is pretty solid as well. I'm going to put Final Fantasy in the B tier as well.
Despite receiving high praise from several content creators, due to some outliers really disliking the game, it's led to it being a B tier MMO, which I'm sure the comment section will have something to say about.
This is the one that I always worry about, and I preemptively talk about like, oh no, I've never played it, so I can't comment because I've never played it, and I don't want to piss people off.
Yeah, that's dog shit. Yeah, get that out of here.
That is a game where
that is a game.
It's a game that people have played. I've heard such things about it.
Yeah, Old School RuneScape's great, man. We talked about it like kind of a lot beforehand.
Okay, so you separate the RuneScapes, but you don't separate the WoWs.
When I went for top 10.
All right.
No. Oh, okay. The best RuneScape. Amazing crafting systems. Top tier world design.
I never played Old School RuneScape up until like 4 months ago. I played RuneScape back when it was just RuneScape when I was a child, like way long ago. But from what I remember what RuneScape was and then what RuneScape is now, even Old School is a totally different game. And it's just an S tier game.
Worst graphics imaginable.
You have a 4090 in your computer. Stop playing RuneScape.
All right. Old School RuneScape is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Old School RuneScape. I love how much the developers interact with the community.
It's a very, 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 very unique game. Like, of all MMOs, I think it is the most unique of the genre. And for that reason, super not for everyone.
But it's one of those games I've admired from afar. Don't think it's a game that I would ever really play that much, but I get why it's a beloved MMO.
It's one of those games people religiously swear by. That is a game that. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, did you ever play it as a kid? Because that tends to be what most people did.
Nope. I am not tainted by RuneScape nostalgia. I never played it as a kid. I've never installed RuneScape on my PC.
Old School RuneScape is deceptive as a game. There's so much to it, and it does things no other game does, and it does things that don't even really make a ton of sense. It also has one of the best questing systems ever, like the intricacy and how they tell you the story and how you interact with the quests in general.
I love that everything literally has to be voted in by the player base.
The graphics are outdated intentionally.
Oh my god, there are so many better games. Stop playing RuneScape.
But they're outdated, and that's just how it is.
It's like you're grinding it on your Macintosh with dial-up internet. Like that's when you used to play it.
I love the numbers go up leveling system that seemingly no other game on earth has really been able to replicate what RuneScape has done. That sort of dopamine where you can chop trees for 6 hours and for some reason that's fun.
Like what are we talking about? Like stop playing it. There's so many better games that have much better systems. Basically everything on this list, New World included. I don't understand why people keep playing. It's absolutely obnoxious. I hate it.
It's essentially an Excel spreadsheet that's got an overlay of what they like to pretend is a game.
There's so much content that you can play for 2,000 hours and then people still say you're at mid-game on an Iron Man.
It's actually on my list. I was actually stuck between trying Albion and RuneScape, and I chose Albion because I was like, oh, what shitty looking game do I want to play that doesn't have graphics? And I was like, I'll go with Albion. But so RuneScape is still on the list.
For a lot of people, it's actually like maintaining bad graphics on purpose. For me and for a lot of old school RuneScape fans, it's maintaining the feel of the game, which is the important part. But I can see how for a lot of people it's like, oh, bad graphics, I'm not interested. Because as much as graphics don't matter to me as much, it's a part of a game. It's an important part of a game. And I can see that being a turnoff.
I think it will always, like, if old school RuneScape, because of when it launched, it's going to be the first MMO for a lot of people, and that in itself is going to be hard, very hard to dislodge from your best MMO ever. So I think there's a lot of personal entanglement with any best MMO ever.
Very few other MMOs have that much of a grind and have made that much of a grind something you actually enjoy doing. And the reason is because, especially with old school RuneScape, it's really a second monitor game. If you're playing old school RuneScape, you're probably playing another game or watching a movie or doing your homework or whatever, right? So yeah, when it comes to old school RuneScape, it's easily one of my favorite games I've ever played, and I still play it to this day.
It's just an amazing game. There's not really a ton you can say about it without getting into the weeds, but old school RuneScape's just a fantastically made game and supported and cared for by its community in a way that almost no other game is.
So, where do you want to hear it?
Oh, it's F. F for fucking dog shit. Yeah.
It's just an S tier game. It's just the best.
I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna have to. It needs a B at least. I'm gonna put it A tier. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think RuneScape, and you know what? Put it S tier. Put RuneScape S tier.
A if I'm going personal opinion. A B if I'm going technical opinion. It's just old and outdated, and we need to see newer, better things coming out of MMOs. But the problem is, again, this is a paradox. If I think about newer MMOs, it's all just cash shop, pay to win, spend as much money as possible. And then I look at anything that's older than that and I'm like, damn, we had it so good. We lived through a golden age.
Okay.
So probably high B tier.
A. I'm almost feeling mean to New World now because like everything's an A and then there's New World.
Elder Scrolls is a B.
Oh no, wait, ESO. Yeah, Elder Scrolls is B. There we go.
F tier. No, probably S tier. It's one of my favorite games of all time.
It's an S tier for me, man. It's not even close. It'd be right up there with WoW Classic if you were smart enough to separate them. But nope. WoW had to be its own thing, its own big thing. Just for some reason.
Although 4 content creators ranked old school RuneScape as S tier, the sentiment wasn't shared across the board, with even one content creator bringing it all the way down to F tier.
Oh my god, there are so many better games. Stop playing RuneScape.
Controversial, I know, but what this meant was that the overall rank of RuneScape got dragged down to an A tier MMO.
Dude, why are the boobs so big in that game? I don't get it. The boobs are huge in that game.
Oh, I haven't played it in a little while. I haven't played it in probably over a month.
Is without a doubt the best free-to-play MMO that is on mobile that I've seen so far.
I can't say I felt super engaged with it. I gotta give it a little bit of leeway given my history because it's technically a Kickstarter MMO.
I really enjoyed Albion Online for about 2 weeks. Because during those 2 weeks, my friends were playing with me, and Albion Online as a cooperative experience is a lot of fun.
Okay, so my background with MMOs is obviously I play basically almost everything at this stage, at least a little bit. Albion Online is a sandbox PvP MMO that I originally covered and backed when it was pre-alpha, like before anyone even really knew what it was. And I think I was one of the first content creators that got a key, even though I had like 10 subscribers on a YouTube channel I never uploaded to.
Albion Online, I think about 90 hours, approaching 90 hours. It don't feel like it. It feels like more than that, though. Not saying 90 hours exactly low. I know in some MMO brains, like, oh, it gets good at 1,000 hours. Like, oh, you only put 500 hours? You only put 100 hours in? That's not even enough to give an opinion on the game. I think that's just a stupid opinion.
It's such like old school, it's a very unique MMO. I know they had RuneScape influences because it's a very grindy game. It's a real sandbox, like no quests at all. No real like world lore. The game doesn't resonate with me too much.
Albion Online does a lot of things really cool, and there's a reason it's been growing in popularity year on year, and a reason why it's, really successful. But for me, Albion Online is too shallow of a game for what it tries to be for like a hardcore PvPer, purely because it's on mobile. Like they just kind of made a lot of design choices that, at least to me, without knowing the inner workings of their company, kind of limit what it could have been as a PC full loot sandbox PvP game.
Oh, yeah, that's like the mobile game, basically. I've heard some really good stuff about Albion. It's not really for me.
There's tons of content for 2v2, 3v3 sort of small group PvP, and then if you want to join a guild or do something like that, you can always go into the bigger Zerg versus Zerg sort of mass guild on guild PvP.
It's got like a wish.com version of the Path of Exile tree. It's got a lot of variety, a lot of weapons. They're still working on the game. The devs are pretty cool. I haven't had any interactions with them, but I've seen their interactions with other people, and not just like content creators, and they're pretty decent.
But the problem was, once I was playing by myself, a lot of that fun sort of went away, which is true of any MMO, but I think more so in terms of Albion because of its PvP focus.
But I've heard that the large scale is really good.
It kind of felt like a lot of the time I was gathering just to be able to gather the next thing, not knowing why I wanted to gather the next thing. Because Albion's very, very tiered, in case anyone hasn't played Albion before. Like, it's very cleanly tiered, like literally tier 1 and above. And like resources are tier 1 and above. Items are tier 1 and above. Weapons, all that.
I don't know. I think the thing that always gets me with Albion Online is how they tie you to your gear, and it was always something that just felt a little weird to me. Like I was like, oh, this is gonna be like Ultima Online, and it's not. It's just really not. It's an interesting game though for me.
I thought I was gonna play it one time, like, oh well, this is BS, but no, something about it actually drew me in.
I like their hardcore systems. The fact that certain zones, you go into it, you get your ass beat, you get your stuff stolen.
So in general, I think Albion's a well-designed game. I think it merges like PvE players and PvP players pretty well.
I didn't swipe, but yeah, it's pay to win. If you're gonna play that game, you gotta look past the fact that, hey, these people bought their currency, or they got this subscription to where they're leveling faster than you and this and that, so that kind of sucks.
Very easy as somebody who is an adult and has a full-time job to just be like, do I want to grind for 10 hours to buy this like random, not even high level set of gear, or do I just spend like $10 and buy it?
I think it's an awesome game. It's an awesome idea. Their crafting system, where basically every item in the game has been crafted by another player, and then when you sell that to the black market, it gets added to the loot pool of monsters in the game. So you kill a monster and you'll get an item that was crafted by another player. It's just super cool. I've never seen that before, so
I am a sucker for Albion Battlegrounds, the arenas. I love it. I freaking love it.
It's the most fun I've had with PvP in any MMO, probably. Its PvP was so much fun. And I'm saying this is not a PvPer. It was really, really, really enjoyable.
I mean, Albion is not a game I've played personally, but we're going to put it right next to, again, Elder Scrolls, which is, I just want to remind everyone, barely beating a mobile game.
Let's give Albion, as much as I enjoyed it, I don't want to put it at C.
Wow. Worse than Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd put it at C. Let's put her at C. Let's put Albion at C.
Albion and ESO in B tier.
The game's fun to play, but for me, I couldn't play it long term because it feels shallow compared to what I'd want out of like a full loot sandbox game.
Okay.
But I would go A tier with Albion. It's definitely up there. It's a really well made game.
Okay.
I'd probably say right behind OSRS B tier.
B tier, yeah?
Yeah, which is absolutely shocking and disgusting for me to say since it's technically a mobile M.
Albion's a solid B for me. I think there's a lot to like about Albion. It's just not like super my game.
I think I'll go B tier with Albion as well. Looking back on Albion, I had a ton of fun when I played it with friends, but unfortunately, if you don't have friends you're playing with, I think it definitely doesn't hold up too well as a solo experience.
Surprisingly, this mobile MMO had a lot of the content creators in agreement, and it averaged out to be a B tier MMO.
I have a funny story about Guild Wars 2. I got permanently banned on Guild Wars 2 back in the day because I was duping items, and they perma-banned me and then made me apologize. And then after I apologized, they unbanned my account, and then I got a refund on it and never played it again. But when I did play the game was good.
It's a very accessible MMO in a lot of ways. You can jump in, you can enjoy different parts of it.
Oh, Guild Wars 2.
Look at that smile.
Guild Wars 2. I like that game.
Yes. No. Okay, so Guild Wars 2 I'd say is a pretty polarizing game because it's not a game that's going to be for everyone.
I've been playing a ton of Guild Wars 2 recently. They just had a new expansion come out. I haven't got to that part yet, so I haven't even really delved into the new expansion. But once again, like I mentioned with ESO, I love horizontal progression, and Guild Wars 2 probably has the single best horizontal progression that exists on the MMO market currently.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, because I've hardly played Guild Wars 2, but I played Guild Wars 1 a lot as a kid. Guild Wars 1 was the only other MMO I played a lot of as a kid. And Guild Wars 2 is very different. It's super different.
Okay, so I recently dipped my toes into Guild Wars 2. I've really craved playing it. Throne of Liberty came out like right as I kind of started it, which so now I'm like torn, and I really like playing Guild Wars 2. I'm actually having a lot of fun with it, and I'm still only in the early levels.
There's so much content in the game. There's so much stuff for people to do, but it's not a game that's designed for me and how I play games, because the game's always been about collecting transmogs and horizontal progression and kind of doing stuff for the sake of doing it.
Something about Guild Wars 2 that puzzles me is I feel it deserves more than what it gets. For some reason, it's not like or what I could consider in the space a mainstream MMO. Like, I just feel like it should be more popular than it is. Like, I feel like Guild Wars 2 isn't that household name the way it needs to be.
I like it. I know their shop can have some stuff in it. I really hate the key stuff. You get keys that open up chests and the randomization part of that. Anytime you enter in randomization and monetization, it's kind of, it's a slot machine to me. But I can only go from my experience, and I spent like nothing on it.
People are either going to pick up the game, enjoy it a lot, keep playing it, start discovering all the systems. It's got low hand holding, and people are gonna then like fall in love with what they think an MMO should be, or people are going to fall into the category of they play the game for a few hours, they just see no appeal to it, they don't understand what they're doing, the story tie-ins are bad, and they kind of fall off a ledge with it.
We'll say that the leveling process that I've had in the game so far is the best that I've ever had in an MMO, because like they help me explore the world while I'm doing while I'm leveling up. It kind of encourages me to do quests in new areas, and then that's how I explore the world, and then I go back to the main story again, and then we just keep going. So like I'm having a really good time with it.
I think Guild Wars 2 has probably one of my favorite worlds though of a lot of these MMOs. I think World of Warcraft is my favorite world of Warcraft, and Guild Wars 2 is second.
It can take years, to acquire and collect some of the items that you can in that game. And each expansion adds a lot of like lore and new areas. And there's a sense with Guild Wars 2 that I just want to explore the game that I very, very rarely get with any other MMO. Exploration in Guild Wars 2 feels better.
It's I would say probably the most underrated MMO on this list. I think the right word for Guild Wars 2 is underrated. I don't think it has huge numbers on Twitch unless like, it's like a new expansion coming out. It's an interesting game. Combat, I think is good. I like the action cam on that game. Classes feel good. The professions are interesting. A lot of them are locked behind, expansions, which, it's not the craziest thing these days.
Guild Wars is weird because it's called Guild Wars and there's nothing Guild Wars about the game. It's an odd proposition, especially when you compare it to what Guild Wars 1 was and what I thought the game was going to be. But it's a really well-made game. It has a ton of stuff for a ton of people, and apparently they support the story content really well.
Monetization is fair. I think I had one critique in my video, which people ripped me apart for, but I still stand by it. Inventory space feels a little crappy in Guild Wars 2, and you can purchase more. And they definitely make it feel like you should purchase more. That was one of my main complaints, but the in-game shop and stuff, it's not too excessive. There's not too much pay to win.
It's a very like even keel game. There's not a lot that I don't like about it. There's not a lot that I love about it. Like when I think back to anything that stands out, I'm like, does the combat stand out? No, it doesn't stand out as being bad either. It's just like, it's very, very solid. So like when I think of Guild Wars 2, I just think solid, like solid game. Not my favorite. Don't hate it.
So as much as I personally enjoy it, I would still say it's not an S tier MMO. It's an A tier at most.
Yeah, I'd put it in A tier.
I don't have a bunch of experience with like the last fucking 10 years of the game, so it's hard to really say. I'd say from when I played and just knowing how well made the game is, it's definitely like an A tier MMO though.
It's a super middle of the road game for me. Like, I don't think Guild Wars 2 is that special. I don't think it's that bad.
Like, it's okay if your combat is not as good, if the world PvP is just that good. You know what I mean? If you have that many people to play with and you're having that good of a time, the combat matters less, in my opinion. It's an A.
Low B, the lowest in B.
I want to give it a C, but I want to give it a B. Let's give Guild Wars 2 a good B tier. Let's give it a good B tier. It has potential.
Well, what do you think of Guild Wars 2? Because like whenever I hear people talk about it, they almost like, even if they have different levels of enthusiasm, I'm like, you're saying the same stuff as me. The game's like solid. It's a solid game. Like, good job.
Base game, it's definitely a little bit, compared to the expansions, it's like night and day in terms of content. So I'm going to go A tier. Could definitely be an S tier, and it's almost there. It's top of the A tier, but not quite.
So it seemed that everyone is in agreement that Guild Wars 2 is okay. It's fine, just nothing too special. Not S tier anyway. So it averages out as a A tier MMO, which arguably is pretty good for a okay game.
I played a very limited amount. I hated it. I fucking hated that game so much. Jesus Christ. Like, if you took everything I could dislike about an MMO and boiled it down into one game, it would be that.
It's an MMO that felt painful for me to get B-roll for. I tried it. I tried to like it. I was like, oh, I mean, it's got this crazy combat system, right? It's a beautiful game, and I do not like that game at all.
The most fun game you've ever played for a week, and then it's the most boring game to ever go back into.
Black Desert Online, I have not played. I have not even played 10 hours like you did. But something about that game, it looks like the best combat that I haven't played, if that makes sense.
This will be a spicy one. I think Black Desert Online, I'm going to immediately just say it's an A tier. For personal preference and how I play games, I'd probably put it as an S, just because I love South Korean MMOs. I know most people hate them, but I grew up playing like Chinese and South Korean MMOs, and I love grinding in games.
I'm just gonna say this: Black Desert's current state of the game and the systems that they have it in a really, really, really bad spot. They've ruined PvP in the game. There doesn't really feel like a reason to progress anymore, and the PvE has been really low effort dog shit lately. The developers don't seem to want to listen to anybody, and pretty much everybody is upset with the game. Now, that being said, it is best in genre combat. You just don't have anything to use the combat on anymore. But back in the day, and my experience with BDO, the combat is incredible.
Sorry, that was my wife just phoning me to tell me how shit Black Desert Online is. Black Desert Online, that game's all about the tits. Man, such fantastic graphics. I just wish the game, every time I opened it, it didn't convert to thinking I'm Turkish. That's all.
It just never appealed to me. Like, even when I was playing on console and it was really the only other MMO option besides the Elder Scrolls Online, I just didn't want to play it. I think a lot of the pay to win stuff I heard about scared me away.
The biggest problem with Black Desert Online is the monetization is tied into every single aspect of the game, and everything's designed to just be worse until you spend money to buy some like random stupid fucking account upgrade for like $30. And because there's so many systems in the game, to have an account that's efficient at doing things, you need to have spent like $1,000 to $2,000 or something stupid like that.
And I'm going to make people mad with this because I really had a really positive review of the game when I first played it. However, every time I've tried to go back and play it again, I enjoy it less and less. It's a little bit too bloated with items and currencies and information that is required before you even understand what's happening. Like, I just feel overwhelmed every time I play the game. And maybe I'm just stupid, maybe I'm an idiot, but every time I go back to it, I don't know what's in my inventory. I don't know what my character's wearing. It's a really tough game to get back into.
Super grindy, super monetized, super PvP focused.
It's a great game in terms of outfits, graphics, combat. It strikes all the matches, and then like it's got the, in my opinion, best in genre professions. So like life skill wise,
some of the systems are good, and some of the systems are miserable. So like the way that the main story quest line kind of railroads you away from actually exploring the world is pretty miserable. I'd say the character design is fantastic.
They have daily stuff that you have to do. They have login bonuses. Basically, all the stuff I don't like in MMOs exists in BDO, and that's and then like a grind that doesn't feel rewarding.
It's just because I keep making new characters for the fantastic physics in the game. It's real easy. Once you get used to playing with one hand, it's not a bad game.
The world's beautiful. The game engine is a little bit old. The game feels a little bit janky in places. It has a really cool, I think, overplayed combat system. I think a lot of people say it's the best combat system in MMOs, but I don't think that's the case. It's fluid, it's fun, it's cool. But the AI system in the game, the lack of PvE in the game.
I think around the time that I was going to try Black Desert Online is when your video came out and you did your review, and then I saw the responses. Yeah, the first impressions from that community, I was like, yeah, let's avoid that one. So, yeah.
So what do you think of the community? What vibe do they give?
Passionate. Just passionate. I think that's the best word. I think that's the best word.
The systems are great, well developed. Yeah, they could use an update, but like, let's be honest, you compare them to any of these other MMOs on this list, it's not even close. So like, that being said, my experience with Black Desert is going to have me put it in the S tier, even though I'm really upset with the game right now.
I don't even know what else to say. F. I hate that game. I hate that game a lot. I actually don't get why it's so popular. Like, I guess it's not that like super popular, but like it has a decent sized player base, and I don't get it. I cannot understand that game's grasp on people.
It does look like fun, thrilling combat, and I think that's what's carried it this long. I'm gonna give Black Desert Online. I think it takes a hit because of the monetization. I'm stuck between B and C. I'm gonna settle on C.
I'd go A. I'll split the difference. I'll say an A.
I'm gonna have to go D tier with BDO. Once upon a time, maybe when I had first played the game, I would have said C or B tier even. I was really impressed the first time I played it and was introduced to the world, but now trying to go back to it a few different times, D tier.
So D tier for I know that like I was supposed to wait for that question, but it's a visceral reaction for me for that game.
Graphics are S tier. Some of the mechanics and systems and the questing is D tier. Monetization is ultra predatory. So I'm going to lean towards C tier.
In terms of funness to play, I would put Black Desert in the D tier unironically right now. Like this is where it's at. Like I would put it in the D tier in terms of like where it's at in the state of the game and whether or not I want to play it right now. D for fucking done. D for dog shit. But if we're talking about my old experiences in the game, I would put it in the S tier.
So overall, Black Desert Online was harshly criticised, with it getting mostly negative points put against it, which on average put as a C tier MMO. But hey, at least it's doing better than New World. So there's only 8 MMOs here, and I'm looking at the top 10. And the reason for that is because there's loads of fringe MMOs like Lost Ark, Lord of the Rings Online, Star Wars: The Old Republic, EVE Online.
How is Lost Ark a fringe MMO?
Well, numbers are a bit skewed because of bots and stuff. So I thought I'd let you pick one to add to the list. So any game whatsoever to add to the list. And it doesn't necessarily have to be one that you enjoy. It could be one that you want to shit on and make everyone aware that you think this F tier is crap.
Okay.
Everyone should know about it. Or one that you think is like a hidden gem. No one's played it for 10 years and it should be on there. So
Okay.
throw it over to you.
It's got to be EverQuest.
Okay.
And there's a reason why.
And where are you putting it though?
It's gonna. I gotta put S tier, right? Like I can't not.
No, I can't even think of one. I'm sure I'll think of a better one later.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about RuneScape 3.
Actual answer? RuneScape 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, can I get into it?
Do you want to tier it first, or do you want to just flag it off? Or
So RuneScape 3, I will put in F tier.
Ooh. Here's a fun one.
well,
Lost Ark deserves to be on this list. It's not even a question. Lost Ark absolutely deserves to be on this list. Where though is a question. I'm gonna put it. Okay, combat. Because again, I rate things off of kind of combat and graphics. Am I allowed to put one more on this list?
No.
But Throne and Liberty has to be on here. It just came out.
Throne of Liberty is it's relevant because it's new. This is an interesting title. I don't get that MMO feel. Like, it's massive, like it's huge battles, and may I say, it is the best performing MMO I've seen or played. Like, the amount of people that can be on screen, the amount of people that can be in town without you lagging, it needs to be studied. People need to study that. Like, it is insane how good their performance is.
Well, I take it back then. We're taking Lost Ark off the list. Fuck those losers. Anyway, nobody cares. We're gonna put Throne and Liberty in The A tier below or above Guild Wars 2.
Throne of Liberty is a puzzling one. I think the tab target combat's okay. It's no World of Warcraft, but it's good combat. Very fun combat, I'd even say. Throne and Liberty. Let's put her... I don't want no one to hate me because a lot of people still jaded by that new game experience. I'm stuck between C and D. I think it has a lot of potential, though. I'm going to put it at C.
Okay, well, you want to know how cynical I am? I don't think currently there is the existence of an actual S tier MMO. I don't think in the modern day we have an actual S tier MMO. We don't have one that's got the community behind it. We don't have one that people lose their minds over and lose their entire livelihood to. I think that it doesn't exist currently.
EverQuest to me is an S tier MMO specifically because it was the blueprint for the dungeon type MMO. So when World of Warcraft came in, it was like, here, we're gonna do all these big dungeons and stuff, whether they instance or not. The blueprint came from EverQuest.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say Darkfall because again, nobody ever played the game. Darkfall had two versions. It was originally Darkfall Online, then they made Darkfall Unholy Wars. I think Darkfall Online was the better version of the game, but Unholy Wars was cool as well. You can't play it anymore. They shut down. It's gone. It's dead, and probably will never be alive. I think one company is still doing like a licensed version called Rise of Aegon or something, but the people running that are incompetent, and it fucking sucks. And it's not even really. It doesn't even feel like what it originally was. The reason I'm going to do that is because Darkfall Online was so far ahead of its time for what it was, even technologically, that it just deserves to be remembered, and almost nobody does remember this game.
Yes, you had dungeons in Ultima Online as well, but it was an EverQuest specific thing to have these raid bosses and all this stuff. And it's just the blueprint of so much, and it's also one of the games that is the closest tied to the tabletop of Dungeons and Dragons.
If it came out 10 years later, it would probably have been appreciated way more than what it was. There was naval combat. It was a massive, huge open world with no load screens where you could have thousands of people in a battle at any time with sieges and dynamic like destruction of buildings and team play. And the game was just the ideal playing with other people game.
It's a game that has withstood the test of time, largely because it focuses on a very simple gameplay loop that has been completely abandoned by MMORPGs. It's kind of the simple go out and grind mobs and work with friends and take on challenges and explore the world, and it has some of the best and deepest lore of any MMO I've ever played.
It was an insanely intricate game, so yeah, that is an S tier for me and always will be, but the game was probably an objective F tier for what the game had in it. It was a fantastic shit game.
Here's a really fun MMO that I can throw in there that I don't know if anyone else has mentioned. They probably have. It's a popular one. Warframe. Very different MMO for like its setting and how it plays. It's like a very like fast-paced, combat-focused one. I really dislike Warframe. I really don't like it.
Star Citizen is 100% a D tier MMO, right?
Do you think it's as good as New World?
Yes. It's got more content. Star Citizen is a D tier MMO. It is not an F tier MMO because, as much as people like to say it, it is not an outright scam. There is a playable product, it's just not a complete playable product, and it probably never will be a playable product.
I really, really dislike Warframe. It's like the missions in the game, which are like kind of like a big core of the game, are so goddamn repetitive. And like grinding is often used as a singular term. Like, oh, grinding's bad. Oh, I like grindy games. Grinding is not one thing. Grinding is not done one way. It is not this behemoth thing. Grinding it comes in many shapes and forms, and the grinding in Warframe is slow and fucking boring. And a lot of the times this is going to sound so weird to say given I just praised old school RuneScape so much. It's just grinding for grinding's sake in that game. And I understand how stupid that sounds, and if there's Warframe fans who heard me praise old school RuneScape, they'll be like, what the fuck? Like, that RuneScape is just grinding to get to more grinding. It feels better in that game. I don't know how else to say it. Also, in Warframe, you need to be paying full attention all the time with the grinding, so it just feels extra bad. That said, low D, it's better than Black Desert Online.
But I harbor a deep resentment for what happened to that game after I started playing. I think the release of Necromancy, the constant monetization decisions, the one step forward, two step back sort of situation that happens with the moderators, where they basically put a carrot on a stick out for the fan base. Here's this awesome content that's going to come out, but we won't tell you about all this bad stuff that's going to happen right after. I don't know if you heard about it. There was a big debacle last year called the Hero Pass situation. It was basically a battle pass that they added to the game, which had some pay-to-win elements. Like, you could take on the hardest content in the game easier, because if you had the battle pass, you would deal like 50% more damage with some abilities and stuff. So it was just completely against the community. It's not what anybody wanted, and they actually labeled that in their roadmap as a major update. So everyone was really excited for this major update that we had been hearing about for a long time, and it turned out the major update was a battle pass. You see, I don't actually think RuneScape 3 is like objectively one of the worst MMOs. I've probably played worse ones, but the sort of update cadence that happens with the game leads to such a lack of disrespect from developers to players that it's like they're on two different planets. Like, the developers have no idea what the players want, and the players don't communicate well enough to the developers what they want.
Star Citizen's big issue is they've taken an infinite amount of money. They're still stealing money from people. They're still making you buy random ships and stuff off the store that don't exist in the game. It's never leaving alpha. I'll probably be dead before that game's completed. Assuming I live a natural lifespan and don't die of cardiac arrest at some point. Its biggest issue is they are spending so much time dealing with scope creep that they're not actually making something functional. And the most terrifying thing is I work in crypto, and so I investigate into a bunch of games that work in the whole garbage metaverse space where everyone's trying to give their pitch to a bunch of venture capitalists to just try and extract as much money out of them as possible. And it doesn't play like an MMO so much as it does a metaverse world that's tied to crypto. And I wouldn't be shocked within the next 2 to 3 years if it's ultimately fully tied to cryptocurrency in one way or another.
So there you have it, the ultimate MMO tier list from some of your favorite content creators. Is it what you expected?
Kat, what do you think about this tier list? Yeah, RuneScape 3's in the bottom because of me.
This is why Mom doesn't fucking love you!
Yeah. EverQuest in the top, I know, isn't that impressive? OG EverQuest. It's a good list.
I swear, if freaking EverQuest is anywhere like on the bottom of this tier list, I am sending a cease and desist to this damn British dog. Well, shit. Starting out strong with the RuneScape at F. Warframe, okay. New World, Star Citizen, sure, D. What the hell? Okay, Elder Scrolls Online is a C? That's Black Desert Online, Throne and Liberty. Wait, Throne and Liberty, okay, okay, we got World of Warcraft, we got old school RuneScape. This is, okay, this is, so far we're good. Yes, you mother... I don't know how much I can cuss on this channel. No, but yes. Probably because I was only a vote. But still, it counts.
All right, let's see where this MMO tier list actually ended up as. I'm excited to see this, Sawman. What the fuck is a Darkfall?
Okay, let's take a look at what the other MMORPG experts, not my cat, apparently she's got something to say about this. Let's see what the other experts had to say about the MMORPG tier list. EverQuest at S rank. What the fuck? Is this a tier list for boomers? What the fuck?
Oi, don't say that. That's not true. That's not true.
Oh, I'm so, I must...
Are you having a laugh as well? Because I don't want to hear it.
Darkfall S tier, forever cemented as an S tier MMO that nobody else has ever heard of. Got him on that one. World of Warcraft, Old School RuneScape, Guild Wars, 2 at A rank, all perfectly reasonable. B rank, Final Fantasy 14, Albion, Throne and Liberty. Feels kind of dirty, to be honest, to put Throne and Liberty with those other 2 games, but it is what it is. Recency bias, we all got it. Elder Scrolls Online at C rank. I'm going to have to bump that one a few down for me, but I understand that some people have very poor taste in games. Black Desert Online, C rank again. I don't even disagree with this, even though I said in mine the Black Desert Online would be high, but it's because I have a bias towards Korean grinders. New World D rank, I think I did New World dirty on this one, to be honest, a little bit, because the game does have some good things going for it, but at the same time, the game is also, at least the old version, who knows about the new one, I can't really say, at least the old version just had literally no content, so there was not even really a game there to rank above anything like a D. Star Citizen D, game doesn't exist, should have been an F. Warframe, not really an MMO, it is what it is. RuneScape 3, dog shit, good list.
Darkfall in S tier. Ugh, I bet you kiss girls in your spare time, you fat.
A massive thank you for watching, and if you got this far in the video, you are a star. I want to give a shout out to all the content creators who took part today. And obviously, if you want to see more content like this, let me know in the comment section below, or maybe leave a like so that I know if you want to see more collaborations. But with that, I'm going to end the video there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.